Good morning, furry fandom. It's Fox Cub, aka Copper Kid here, bringing you yet another video. And, little thing. I'm not going to be moving very much in this video, like I usually nod my head. I'm trying really hard not to move my head, keeping it really stiff. Looking at you guys the best I can because I hurt my neck. I had to get my hand in a specific position until my neck stops hurting a little. And any slight movement I do with my arms might hurt me, but I'm going to do my best to record this video because I didn't want to wait. Well, and I wanted to let you guys know, today is my Halloween special video, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. And it's my favorite Halloween story. And I'm going to start off the story now. It takes place about 20 years after the American Revolution. A small town not far from New York, named Tarrytown, also nicknamed Sleepy Hollow. And it was called that because people tended to tarry there for a while and just go about their day lazily. So that's how it got its name. And it's said to be a town that has been cursed by several different things. One, they say a witch doctor, a shaman witch doctor from a Native American tribe, cursed the land to be haunted. Another one says that a group of witches, that they meet in the Sleepy Hollow forest called the Hollow. But the most famous of all of the stories is a Hessian soldier who died at a battle about 1 mile from the town down the Hudson River. It's said that a cannibal took his head clean off during the battle and that his headless spirit rises on the anniversary of his death to search for his missing head. And this, he's supposed to be the most feared of all of the ghosts, the general of all of them. And he was known as the Headless Horseman. But none of the legends compare to the story that involved a young schoolmaster named Ichabod Crane. He was hired to go to Sleepy Hollow to be a teacher for a one-room schoolhouse for kids and to be a choir teacher for the children for the Sleepy Hollow choir. And he was a very tall, skinny man, and he had a small head and a very pointed nose that looked like those arrows on top of a house that would spin to the direction of where the wind was pointing. And he was also had feet so big they could be mistaken to be shovels. And as he went to Sleepy Hollow, he was actually a very good teacher. He was stern with his kids, though, and his famous saying was, "Spare the rod and spoil the child." But he would try to be on good terms with his students, especially if their mothers tend to be good cooks. He was always hungry and always eating. He wasn't homeless because he was staying at a farmer's house named Van Ripper. And, that's where he stayed for the remainder of his time in Sleepy Hollow. And he really enjoyed doing what he did, being a schoolmaster and a choir teacher. But his most favorite student out of all of his of all of his students was a choir student named Katrina Van Tassel, the town's rich girl, the daughter of Baltus Van Tassel. And people often wondered, did Ichabod fall in love with her because of her beauty or her wealth? But Ichabod Crane was not the only one who fancied her. A man named Abraham Van Brunt, who goes by the nickname of Brom Bones, who was the town's strong man and the best horseman racer and blacksmith in all of Sleepy Hollow. He also loved Katrina as well, but he never even thought about her wealth. And Ichabod and Brom always competed with each other, trying to win over Katrina's hand, hopefully for marriage one day. Brom would play pranks on Ichabod. He would go into his schoolhouse and turn everything upside down, and Ichabod believed in the supernatural and would think that witches had a meeting there. And during his choir teachings, he would have a dog howl outside the window to mess up the choir school meeting. But Ichabod, he would not want to stoop to Brom's level of pranks. So he just dealt with it the best way he could by ignoring him and just trying to focus on Katrina. But it seemed like at every turn, Brom seemed to be outdoing Ichabod. Until this went on for a few, I would say, months. And well, Ichabod thought he would finally have his chance when Katrina personally invited him with a letter that was personalized by Katrina herself to their family's Halloween party. And it said at the bottom of the letter, "Please come." And Ichabod thought this would be the best way to win Katrina's hand in marriage. So that day, Ichabod let everyone out of his school early, and he put on his best suit. In fact, it was his only suit. And he went to the Van Ripper's house to borrow a horse so he could go to the party. And, Van Ripper, he offered him his horse named Gunpowder. He was an old, frail horse who have seen many summers and didn't seem to have very many left more to see. So Ichabod, he took the horse as Van Ripper offered, and he rode it to the to the Van Tassel's house. Sorry about that. And as he was riding there, Brom Bones rode past him on his big, black, speedy racehorse named Daredevil and arrived to the party first and met up with Katrina. Ichabod was not happy about it. But when they got there, the party ensued, and there was a bunch of singing, music playing, and Ichabod got to dance with Katrina Van Tassel while Brom Bones sat in the corner because he didn't know how to dance. And he was stewing in his own juices, furious at Ichabod, thinking, how is he going to outdo him this time? It wasn't until the music started to die down and everyone started to gather on the fire telling ghostly tales of Halloween. And he saw that when Ichabod knocked over a salt shaker, he took the salt and threw it over his left shoulder, and he realized that Ichabod is superstitious. So Brom decided to tell his story. So he figured that he wanted to tell a story to scare the daylights out of Ichabod Crane. And he got his idea after someone at the party started telling Ichabod about the Headless Horseman. The gentleman was saying that the Headless Horseman is a Hessian soldier who lost his head during a battle, had his head taken off by a cannonball in the battle. and they burned his body at the old Dutch church. And every year on Halloween, the anniversary of his death, he would rise from his grave and ride off the battlefield looking for his head. And it is even said that the previous school teacher before Ichabod Crane, named Old Brower, encountered the Headless Horseman. Headless Horseman rode past him, picked him up, and threw him on the back of his horse. And, well, as they got closer to the covered bridge, the Headless Horseman turned into a skeleton and threw Brower in the river and disappeared over the tops of the trees. In a flash of lightning, and Brom got his idea to tell the story to scare Ichabod with a story of the Headless Horseman, seeing he was terrified already of the Headless Horseman. Well, he told Ichabod that one Halloween last year, he was riding along the same path that Brower took to go home, and he came across the Headless Horseman. And he said that he would offer that he bet a bowl of punch that his horse was faster than the Headless Horseman's. And the Headless Horseman took Brom upon that offer, or that bet, that they would, about the bowl of punch and the racing. And they raced toward the bridge. And as they got close to the bridge, Brom said his horse would have won the race if the Headless Horseman didn't disappear in a ball of fire when they reached the covered bridge. And Ichabod was so terrified of these stories, he was shaking at the end of it. And finally, the party was coming to an end, and Ichabod decided to stay behind and talk to Katrina privately, and propose to her, most likely. Nobody knows what happened that day, that night when Ichabod proposed to her, but it's sad to say it was not meant to be. So Ichabod rode home at night, being the last guest leaving, going through the hollow with a heavy heart, probably being rejected by Katrina. And he was met with all the creepy sounds of the hollow. It even seemed like that his name was being whispered to him throughout the hollow. And he was hearing moans and groans and just creepy shadows, and he swore he saw eyes looking at him from the shadows. Ichabod was terrified as he was going deeper and deeper into the hollow. As he got deeper, he saw a figure along the road, what looked like on horseback, that started to follow him after Ichabod passed it, started to follow him on the trail. And every time Ichabod would speed up, the rider would speed up. Every time he'd slow down, the rider would slow down. Ichabod looked at the rider, and he barely could utter the words, "Who are you?" because he was full of fear and his mouth was so dry. It was so dark because the moon was behind the clouds. And then Ichabod, he saw a hill that was coming up, and he pressed Gunpowder to go faster, and Gunpowder got over the top of the hill and down it, and then Ichabod turned around to look at the figure that was coming over the hill. And then the moon came out from behind the clouds, and then Ichabod was terrified to see what it was. He saw that his companion rider had no head, and Ichabod saw where the rider's head should have been was being carried in the saddle. And Ichabod blurted out in fear, "It's the Headless Horseman!" And Ichabod stirred his horse to go faster. And Ichabod's horse, Gunpowder, took off in a flash, and the horseman right behind him. And as Ichabod edged Gunpowder to go faster and faster, so did the Headless Horseman. And Gunpowder couldn't go no faster, and the horseman was getting closer and closer. Ichabod kept trying to make Gunpowder go faster, but with no success. And he was trying so hard that the strap of the saddle broke out from underneath him and fell out from underneath him. And Ichabod, grabbing onto Gunpowder's neck for dear life, barely staying on Gunpowder. And as Ichabod got deeper into the hollow, he could see the horseman was getting closer and closer. Ichabod was terrified, afraid that the horseman would take his head as well. And Ichabod, looking through the trees, saw the covered bridge near where the old Dutch church was. And remember that Brahms story, that once you cross the bridge, the horseman disappeared in a ball of fire. So he was hoping that if he could get to the church, he would be safe from the horseman's wrath. And as they got closer and closer, he saw that the horseman started to stand up in his stirrups and reach for the head that was in his saddle and lifted it up like he was getting ready to throw it. And as Ichabod crossed over the bridge, Ichabod stopped Gunpowder and looked back in fear and saw that the horseman threw the head at Ichabod, hitting him on the side of the head, knocking him off his horse, and falling right onto the ground. And the next day, Ichabod did not show up for school or choir, and people had a bad feeling that something happened to Ichabod. They got a group of people out to search for him, and, well, they found Gunpowder grazing in a field not far from the Sleepy Hollow Bridge, and they traced back to where Ichabod took his path to go home. They found Gunpowder's saddle, and they found Ichabod's hat at the bridge, and close beside it, a shattered pumpkin. But there was no sign of Ichabod Crane. As time went on, people tend to forget about Ichabod, and Katrina and Brom, they eventually got married. But there were still some people who whispered and talked about what happened to Ichabod. Some people say that Brom chased Ichabod out of Sleepy Hollow of jealousy, because every time that they would mention the story and mention pumpkins, Brom Bones would laugh every time he heard about pumpkins. And that made people wonder, was it really Brom or was it the horseman? And some people say that he left Sleepy Hollow with a broken heart from Katrina rejecting him and became a lawyer in New York. But other settlers refused to believe such nonsense because they knew, or they truly believed, that Ichabod was spirited away by the most famous ghost of Sleepy Hollow, the Headless Horseman. Well, I hope that you all enjoyed the video and enjoyed my story of telling the legend of Sleepy Hollow. It's one of my favorite stories, and I really hope that you enjoyed the story too. And, well, I hope that you all have a pleasant Halloween, and I'm sorry for my slouching and not much of my movement because of me being sore in my neck. And, well, in fact, let me get this off my neck. It actually is killing me. I hope you all enjoyed the video and have a happy Halloween. And remember to like and subscribe and hit the thumbs up and like this video, or you too will lose your heads.